Okay, so we are up to. Okay, so we're going to go over the story again. We did a story last time, and we're going to go over the story again. That seems to me the best way of doing it because we need to do the Rashbam. We need to do the Rashbam anyway. We are Mem Base Omid Aleph, I think. No, Mem Aleph. No, Mem Aleph Omid Aleph. Mem Aleph Omid Aleph. Rav. So the story begins with the words Rav Anan. Yeah. Rav. So Mem Aleph Omid Aleph is Rav Anan is it's halfway down. Yeah, as I said, halfway down Mem Aleph Omid Aleph. Just after the brackets, there are brackets where it says Anav Simon. The simon, the mnemonic, is a mnemonic for 3 stories the Gemora is going to share, which each have a different message and lesson to tell us about these halachas and the context of whether and how you need a claim. So we said that the Mishnah says, you have a chazaka 3 years, you still need a claim. You need a taina. You need a claim that makes sense. So the case of Rav Anan is Rav Anan shokal beitka ba'arei. Rav Kanan, there was a flood in his land. Ozal hada guda ba'arei dechavrei. He went and he put the wall in his friend's land. As we'll see, obviously Rav Anan didn't do it because he wanted to steal his friend's land. Chas v'shalom, is Rav Anan, right? Doesn't do these things. But there was a doubt over where the border was, and he put it where he thought the border was. Right? That's what happened. Also, coming to Rav Nachman, he came in front of Rav Nachman. Amalei said to him, "Zil hodar, you got to go and put it back. It's in the wrong place." It's in the wrong place. Only so he says, "Varzikili." What? Pardon?
You said last week you did this and you helped me build it.
Yeah, we're going to get to. I'm just going over the Gemara. We're going to do the Rashbam. I'm still holding over there. Varzikili. I've got a chazaka. I've been there a certain length of time. So he said to him, "You must be going like Rabbi Birnbaum and Shmuel, who hold that if it's in front of him, it's a chazaka immediately. In other words, you do something in front of someone else and they don't object. Rabbi Birnbaum and Shmuel say you don't need the 3 years. It goes out the window because he's in front of the guy. So he should have objected if it wasn't the case. That's a knockout proof that it's yours. That doesn't help you. You don't paskin like them. We paskin like the other opinions that hold that chazaka needs 3 years. Yeah, it doesn't work to just do right. To just do what's it called? To just do, to say, well, it's in front of him immediately as chazaka. So that doesn't work. Amalei said to him, I've got another proof that it's mine because he was mochel, he forgave it. How's the proof? How do I know that? He came and helped me build a wall. He actually supported me. He came and helped build the wall with me. Amalei said to him, that's a forgiveness mistake. That's an error. It's a mistake. Had you known mihava avdus, would you have done this? You only did it because you weren't sure where the wall was, and you thought that's where it was. Just like you didn't know, he also didn't know. And therefore his mechila is no proof. So he forgave it. He helped me build it. All right, but he had no idea where it was. That's why he helped you, just being a nice neighbor. Just being a nice neighbor. So that's not a proof. So let's have a look at the Rashbam. That's the story. The Rashbam is about 5 lines into the Gemora, 6 lines into the Gemora. Shakal bidka ba'arei. Shut off mayim nichnas b'sadeu. A flood of water entered his field. V'notalis ha'mechitzos. It removed the walls. V'lo no the boundaries. V'lo no makomon. And the place where they should have been, where they were, it was unknown. He made a new wall between he and his friend. And he ended up widening his own land, and the wall was in his friend's land. He says, I've got a chazaka shabanisi kosel alpiv. The also say a good Bahadoi. Rashbam understands that this, when he makes this claim and says, I've got a chazaka, he's relying on the facts which the Gemora itself is going to spell out afterwards, which is that since I built a wall on the basis of his command, right? He supported it together with me. And it's like he said to me, go and form a chazaka, go and acquire it. It's like he supported it explicitly. Since I did it through him, right? And I also formed a chazaka for a day or two, shahoya kosel shali b'karka shaloi, that my wall was in his land, right? V'hu yoda v'lo micha, and he knew and he didn't object. Ela shasak, he was silent. Harei chazakti chazaka sheish motaina, harei chazkosi chazaka sheish motaina. My chazaka is a chazaka which has a claim with it. Ve'edach havatoin lo nosatia. And the other guy claimed, I never gave it, and you haven't got it for the years of chazaka. So this Rosh Hashanah is very important. Because this Rosh Hashanah tells us that basically why this story is here. Because you need a chazaka and you need a taina. You need a chazaka, right? That you've actually physically been in the land, present in the land, however long that's for, right? Which is normally we assume is 3 years. And you need a taina, you need a story, you need a claim that backs it up. You can't, we've said this before, squatters' rights alone is not going to help you. You need to have a story that supports the why you're squatting in it, right? So he's saying like this, I've got both a chazaka and a taina. What is my chazaka? My chazaka is the fact that I've been in the land. You're telling me it's not 3 years. Who cares? In front of him, well, he's no more than that, because he supported me. He actually helped me build it, right?
Yeah. Isn't that his taina as well?
Pardon?
That's his taina as well.
Well, it's really one and the same, isn't it? He's saying, the way the Rosh Hashanah is putting it is that since it's like he told me to do it, and then he says, I'm physically present in the land for a day or two. That's what he says. He says, I'm physically present. I formed the chazak in the land for a day or two, right? Because my wall is in his land. And he knew about it and he didn't object. So it seems to be that that's the taina. The claim is the fact that he is present and doesn't object. So the presence is the chazaka. The presence is the chazaka, which itself is only good enough for a day or a short period of time because the guy knew about it. Okay. And what's the time?
He's not claiming that the original owner said, build your fence here. He's not saying that. He's saying the chap said, build your fence.
No, he's saying that he's not saying that. He's saying that the fact that he helped me build the wall in this place.
That's the second one. I thought the help to build was the second one.
No, the Rashbam brings it all in here. It's a bit confusing.
The first one.
Only the first one. Only the first one.
The first explanation for the chazaka is
it's confusing. The Rashbam here is jumping to the end.
the Omri called the font of the chazaka goes up.
Yes, but the Rashbam is jumping to the end, and he's saying when he says v'hoach ziki that I formed the chazaka, right? He's saying that as the Gemora is going to explain, the strength of his claim in the end turns out to be on the basis that the guy helped me build it, and therefore, since even though I was only there for a short period of time, because he supported me, that means that's a knockout proof that my chazaka is strong enough, and it comes with a claim. It comes with an inbuilt claim. What is the inbuilt claim? That you basically told me it's mine because you helped me build it. Like, that's a great claim. Yeah, you supported me. Well, yeah, you know exactly.
But he made a mistake.
Yeah, he gave permission to repair the fence. He didn't say, but it said he made a mistake about where it was.
Yeah.
He didn't have the layout of the fields and the exact measurements.
That's right. That's what we're going to. That is going to be his counterclaim.
Right, that's a very good counterclaim.
Yeah. So let's see the counter. Let's go back now. The Gemara goes into the suggested answer of the Gemara. Omalei said to him, "Kaman to answer v'achziki. According to whom are you claiming when you say v'achziki? I've made a chazaka. The spirit loch you hold chetkas yemechad have a chazaka. You're holding that a chazaka of 1 day as a chazaka. Heichad yodam ma'ara v'lo micha. Where the ma'ara, the person who is questioning, knew about it and did not object, right? You're suggesting that 1 day is good enough, even though normally we require 3, even though we've understood that we require 3 years for chazaka. But if the guy knew about it, yeah, then that's enough. And again, this is going down the route before the guy who the other claim that he helped him and actually dug it with him. Just saying, you're suggesting 1 day is enough because once he knew about it, that's it. Once he knows about it, that's it. Doesn't matter how long it is. Who's that going like? That's like Rabbi Yehuda, the Masnisin. And it's like Rabbi Yehuda Mishnah, to Toli Tam the Gimel Shanim, who says that the reason of 3 years is Kedei sheba aspamya, so that he should be in aspamya shana b'chol over a year. Chaim kara v'serich malech yoim. If he's closer within 1 day, right? Sheyuchal leida miyad, so that he's able to know immediately. K'sheyadav le'yimcha te'eh chazaka. So the review in our Mishnah, who says that the 3 years is Kedei Sheheba Aspam Yashana, that he just says the only reason for 3 years is because if he happens to be in a faraway place, he happens to be in Spain, and it's going to take him a long time to find him, to come back and know about it, whatever. I'm Korov, if he's closer, within 1 day's journey, Sheyuchal Leida Miyad, he's able to know immediately. So then, then once he knows, okay, well, I think you may read it. When he knows about it, he doesn't object. That's a chazaka immediately. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Nami Yishli Perkin, and Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi holds the same thing at the end of the parak. There was a story with a certain person. He opened his windows towards the courtyard of a jointly owned courtyard. This is a classic case of we'll discuss like hazagri or whatever. You're actually injuring the person because you're overlooking them, which is of course present in English law and other legal systems as well. You're not allowed to do that type of thing, overlooking. Exactly. But Rabbi Shmuel, he came in front of Rabbi Shmuel. It's interesting. His mum is repeated in English law. It's exactly the same. You build an extension. I'm quite involved in building it. There's a clause they put in the planning permission. You find it funny? Oh. Sorry. No, they do, but it's true. They put a clause. No. The council put a clause. If you have like a flat roof extension or whatever, let's say, so that's what we did at the back. So they put a clause in, which basically says you're not allowed to use the space for anything other than a roof. That means you're not allowed to put a terrace up there. Correct. It's again that they do that all the time. Of course they do, but there's a clause in the planning permission which basically says as long as you don't use that purpose, because the problem overlooking.
It's actually a very big case. It's the take one built a viewing area.
Oh, really?
Overlooking people's apartments. That's interesting. I know it's recent, this last year, I think.
Interesting.
I think the apartments won. The residents won.
Although it's a bit funny because if you have windows upstairs anyway, then you can see into their gardens anyway. So it's a bit weird that there's a bit weird. What can you do more in terms of in terms of the roof?
Feeling that presence right on top of it. You're right. I mean,
they could see right into the bed flat.
You could be miles away these days.
I mean, it's a funny rule anyway. I don't know the case.
I thought there was a reason. Anyway, the issue is not decided yet. It's a controversial.
But anyway, this case was the case. Pasach Chalanosov opened his windows doesn't mean like we think of opening windows, like opening the window. It means like knocking a hole in the wall, right? Opening a window means he opened a window. He opened a window. It was a solid wall, and he opened a window in the wall. Yeah, right. He came in front of Bishmuel. He said to him, you formed the chazaka, he said to him, that's it, you've got it. Why? Because Rabbi Shmuel holds, right, that if it's in front of him, he's there, he's present, and he didn't object, it's a chazaka immediately. Okay, right? So that was the first attempt by Rav Anon to justify himself, or at least no, that was the first way that Rav Nachman understood Rav Anon. Rav Nachman said, surely the reason why you're claiming chazaka for where you put the wall is because you hold that if you did it in front of him and he doesn't object, that's chazaka immediately. We don't hold like that. Ein halacha b'chulu, ela k'rabbanon. Halacha is not like Rabbi Shmuel, ela k'rabbanon, or Rabbi Yehuda. Like the Rabbanon told me, you say, the kol d'var chazaka ki moshanim yomlim bu'inon. That everything that's chazaka has to be 3 years from day to day. That means 3 complete years. There's a bell ringing in your mind which says that last time we learned in the Mishnah there is another form of chazaka that doesn't require 3 years. That's different. Yeah, it's the dragon of Toras Chaim. However, that is not the same, because that was cheskas tashmishin. It's like a Legoland. The Cheskas Tashmishin. The Cheskas Tashmishin. What is Cheskas Tashmishin? That was the case we learned in the first parak, which Rashbam brought in the Mishnah, which was where you have a right to use something. Okay? From achzik lahurdi, achzik likshuri. You know, where that's where you have a wall and you place the beams on the other guy's wall. You remember? Yeah. Okay, so you want to claim usage rights. That means to say, I left my beams. I'm building an extension, let's say, and I rest the beams of my extension on your wall, and you say nothing. So it's mine. Finished. That's different. That's not chazakas of karka. That's not a chazaka of karka. That is a usage right. It's different.
This is where it's taken that.
You try that with the neighbours, Rabbi?
Let's not go into neighbors now. Another time. Another time. Let's continue, shall we? Yeah. What was that?
Very difficult to done the customs for a farmer in the story.
Yes, that's an interesting question. A very interesting question. That's. See if we can. Well, okay, let's just finish the story, then we'll come back to that. But Haravan did it, yeah. Anyway, that was what he said. See, the Lach's not like them. Amalei said to him, he came and he helped me build the wall, helped to build the wall, right? So the Rashbam says, V'halo yeshli taina vadois. I've got a definite claim. Shehikna li karka. That he was makna to me the karka. The yeshli edim, because I've got, in other words, that he sold me the land. The yeshli edim, witnesses shiro, they saw Shayim Masayeh Ali live no sakosel. He helped me build a wall. Command chazik ukni domi. And therefore, it's like him telling me explicitly, go and form a chazaka. Le chazik ukni is not the same as the chazaka that we've been discussing. It's all confusing, this chazaka business, because there are several forms of chazaka. There's cheskas karka, which is where you're there for 3 years and he doesn't object, and that's the main focus of this part of the parak. There's another form of chazaka. There's a few. There's the form of chazaka where you become established to do something 3 times or whatever. That's right. And then there's a chazaka of which is a form of acquisition, right? Yeah. Right, the karka land, it's a mission in Kiddushin. Karka can be acquired in 3 ways: kesef, shtar, and chazaka. You can buy it with money. You can get a document that says it's yours, or you can be machzik. What does that mean? That's not 3 years. Chazaka is like, it doesn't mean lei chazik ukni. That means you do something. It's at the end of the Mishnah. It's the end of the parak. Yeah, was that? We had it
just before Lamazan.
Could be it's come up already. Yeah, and the main sugya is at the end of the parak, I think. Basically, the classic example is rofak bei porta. You dig a bit in the land. You do something. You put up a bit of fencing. You do something in the land, and that is a demonstration of ownership. And the guy who wants to sell you the land can do that. He can say le chazik ukni. Go and form a chazak and acquire it through that. Of course, you got to pay for it still, but the kinyan, it's a method of kinyan, right? You acquire it through that action. Okay, so that's what his claim is. Doesn't need anything now. Do you understand? Doesn't need forget 3 years, forget chazaka of karka. What do you mean? I'm proving that it's mine.
Because I dug my fence onto your land.
No, because he helped me build it. He helped me build the wall, the neighbor. And because he helped me build the wall, that's like him telling me, form a chazaka, yeah. This type of chazaka, you understand? It's like that's how it is. So he said to him, that's not a proof. You know, it's not. It's a mistaken forgiveness. He didn't know that you were building in his property. If you had known, would you have done this? You didn't know. You also didn't know. Astonishment. You made a mistake as well. You thought that he was building in your property, or sorry, you were building in your property. You, Rav Anan, did not intend to build in his land, correct? Yeah. Obviously not. Rav Anan wasn't going to go and build in the other guy's land, right? He's Rav Anan. So obviously he's not, right? What was he doing? What was he doing? There was a flood. There was no boundaries anymore. So he gave the best guess as to where it would be. And he's now claiming that his decision should stand. On what basis? Because the other guy helped me build it. So obviously he agrees. So Rav Nachman's response is, what do you mean? He only did it because he made a mistake. And therefore, you also, and just like you wouldn't have done it if you hadn't made a mistake, make a mistake. So the difficulty here is exactly as Martin said, is to understand Rav Anan. Well, why is it difficult? It's not so difficult. The din is the din. You're saying he should have acted if Nimashur is a din.
Nothing says to him,
Yeah.
go and take this fence back into your own land.
Correct. So why is that strange?
No, because he said, well, hang on a Chazaka, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, that's not reasonable. Not reasonable.
It's a bit.
They were close to win. Close to
Yeah, it's close to the win. The sniff test. It fails the sniff test.
Isn't that a bit? How should I put it?
Understandable.
I think that.
No, it's a bit sort of like. No, it's a bit because it's a bit like sort of. You're judging? Not judging. You're saying that he should have acted to higher standards. Is that what you're saying?
No, he goes to base din.
Projected, you've got standard.
Yes, called debate.
Yeah, you got din as a din.
Yeah, I think he said it was established that it was a mistake, so it should just be reversed it out.
Yeah, but it's a lot.
He accepts it.
He obviously is he.
Well, yeah, then that's the end of the story. So we can assume that Havanan accepted it,
Yeah, but not after he tried.
not after he tried to keep it.
It might have been the wall of his house or something else. It's expensive to knock it down again. It doesn't seem like. That's the problem. The guy said
Maybe he wanted to withdraw the case, and the other person said, "Let's go to Basting just to establish what the law is here." It's a very interesting point of view.
Doesn't sound like that, is it? Let's be honest.
Trying to find a way.
Let's be honest. No, I think there's much more prosaic explanations. Rav Anan is following the din. That's what he's doing. That is the purpose of the venture. Rav Anan is following the din, and Rav Nachman doesn't come to him to say, "Oh, surely you should." There's a doubt here, and therefore, surely you should be, lefnim mishuras adin, because that's not a din. That's not a halachic response. He says to him, "You can't act in this way because you don't have a right of ownership." That's your problem.
No, there's a truth. There's a truth. Like you said on Shabbos, there's a whole truth. The whole truth
All right.
is that he
What?
built
That what?
the fence
But he doesn't know where it is.
into the other guy's field.
He doesn't know where it is, does he?
It subsequently emerged that the other guy found the original measurements and said, "Well, it's not. It's in my field. You've usurped my land."
he shouldn't be so quickly permission to check.
Yeah, correct. But maybe he wanted to. The cows were going to run out. There's an urgency to rebuild a fence. And they said, "Yeah, that's roughly right. Look, I haven't got the plan. Plans are in the town hall. It's going to take you a week to get the plans."
Who's housing the homeless in his expanded property?
There could be. I mean, I'm looking to see.
We might be talking about moving it, a few inches, or we might be talking about 20, 30 yards or something.
I think you'd have probably noticed that.
Well, clearly not. There's a flood and everything's been washed away.
You've got huge fields. And
They probably didn't build over the water. They probably waited till the water.
Well, we never know. It's not. Yeah, but it's not visible. Right?
We've never.
I don't know.
I think we're getting off piece now.
Yeah, I'm just seeing if there's any.
I think we're around.
No, I think. Yeah, I think the simple explanation is that Rav Anan, Rav Anan wants to follow the din, and he believes that the din is with him because there was an unknown. It was unknown where he made the best guess as to where the fence was. True that was a mistake. True that was a mistake. But the claim is that I own it now. It could be that subsequently to that, like you say, he may then make a decision or not. But let's first establish who the owner is. It could be makes a decision after that. Maybe he's got other cheshbonos. Maybe his wife is telling him in the background, "Don't give it up." I don't know what. There could be also other factors. The purpose of the Gemora is to establish what the din is. And Rav Anan wants to work out what the din is. I think that's a simple explanation, right? What he would subsequently do after is not the concern of the Gemora. The Gemora is not dealing with that. The Gemora is going to work out, does he have a halachically valid claim to this land or not? That's it. And Rav Anan also wants to know that. Is it mine? Is it yours? I can decide afterwards what I do. So I think that's why I think it's too To look at it as in how could Rabbanan do this is incorrect, because Rabbanan is not acting incorrectly. He is verifying who is the owner of the land, who is the legal owner of the land, right? Assuming that had been a legitimate mechila, right? That, in other words, they had actually supported building a wall, even though it was known. In other words, if he genuinely thought that it was in this place, there wasn't a mistake because of where the positioning was or whatever, and of course it would be a good proof, and therefore that's what Rabbanan established. Rabbanan says no, but here's not, because there's a mistake. That's I think the simple way of learning the Gemara.
It listens to the BBC.
Yeah.
It would see that neither of the parties wanted to buy or sell the land. That was never intended.
Not here.
No, exactly.
Not here. Here they just want to know. Here they just want to know where it is.
So yeah, but to say without,
Pardon?
I think you said a minute ago, Rabbanan is saying, I now acquired them.
That's what his argument is.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Why? His argument is that you've
But he
told.
never wanted, but he was looking to buy it.
It doesn't matter.
It
It doesn't mean it. It means that he's trying to argue that however way you look at it, he says, I'm now the owner.
Yeah.
Why? Because he's effectively sold it to me or whatever, or he's agreed that it's mine. Yeah. That's the point. Now the second, well, let's see the second case. The second story is Rav Kana, right? Rav Kana, yeah, line and a half near the moment. Rav Kana shokol bitkov are. Rav Kana, there was also I think it means a dam burst in his field. It's a lot about floods. Ozal hada guda, yeah, Ozal hada guda ba'ara delodidei. He went and put the boundary in land that wasn't his. Same thing, really. Similar idea. Also, Kameid Rav Yehuda. He came in front of Rav Yehuda. Ozil, I see Tresadi. Now, he brought two witnesses. So he was ahead of the game here because he brought two witnesses. No, the other guy. Sorry, the other guy, right? The other chap who owned the next door field, who said that Rav Kana had legitimately taken his land. He brought two Eidim. Chadoma, one of them said, Tartius.
He built the wall in his friend.
He built the wall in his friend's place. Yeah, that's what he's done. Meaning the guy, basically, who came to Rav Yehuda? The other guy. The guy who claims that Rav Kana has taken his land, right? He comes in front of Rav Yehuda and he brings two Eidim. He brings two witnesses. One said that he moved it 2 rows of, let's say, furrows or rows on the rows of the land, right, into the field. The other one said, and the other one said he brought it 3 rows inside the field. Now, this is a very interesting question because here you have a scenario of you always need 2 Eidim. So he's got 2 Eidim that he moved the boundary, right? In other words, this is not like the previous case where there is a well, there was a debate where it was because it went away and whatever. Well, I suppose it is similar in that way. That's why he put it there. Yeah, that's why he put it there. And the other guy's trying to claim and says, no, you've actually encroached on my land, right? But he's got Eidim that support that claim that the boundary was originally here, and then it was moved. Pardon?
That's different.
But they weren't disputing that there was a mistake in the previous case. They were even relevant in the previous case.
Yes, I suppose so. The previous case, he moved the boundary, and then it was basically came to light that he had done this. And that's right. Yes, you're right. Yeah, the previous case, he wasn't disputing that he had moved it. His argument was, but I'm legitimately allowed to keep it because he's agreed to it, whatever. Here, he's standing his ground, it sounds like, right? He's saying the boundary's here. The other guy says, no, the boundary's there. And I'll prove it to you because I've got Eidim. The problem is the Eidim don't quite agree.
Yeah.
And this is a problem in Hilchos Eidus. You've got 2 Eidim. You always need 2 Eidim. He brings 2 Eidim. And there is a common denominator between the 2 Eidim. 2 furrows they both agree on. But one of them says 3. And therefore, the interesting question, which is very, very relevant halachically, is if you have 2 Eidim for a certain purpose, can you boil down the Eidus to the common denominator and use them as 2 Eidim? Or do you say that if they contradict each other, throw them both out the window?
Got one A.
Logically is a common denominator.
But one's wrong, so
But on the other hand, they're contradictory.
yeah. Or we could
So-
say one. We could say one's definitely wrong, and therefore you only got one A. Even if
That's right. That's right.
It's what I mean.
One is definitely wrong in the sense that it's either 3 or 2.
Exactly. So
They both
we've got
agree.
one egg.
They both agree on 2. Yeah, it's a very interesting question. And this is what he said to him. He says to him, Omalei Zil Shlim. So Rabbi Yehuda turned around to Rav Kana and said, Zil Shlim, go and pay. In other words, move the boundary. Tarti migoitlas. 2 rows out of the 3. So in other words, Rav Yehuda paskened exactly like this. Rav Yehuda said, let's break down the edus and let's say that 2 out of the 3 is definitely valid, and therefore it's definitely we've got edus for 2 out of the 3, and therefore that's what you should do. That's what you have to move. That's how far you have to move it. So Amalei, he said to him, Rav Kana says to him, come on, who are you going like? Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. You are following Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Because Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, as we're going to see in the Brisa, he understands that according to Beis Hillel, you can say included in what we call Yesh B'chal Masayim Moneh. That means including in 200 is 100. In other words, according to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Beis Hillel is of the view that in the case where you have disputing Eidim, 2 Eidim who dispute each other, you can boil it down to the common denominator, like Yesh B'chal Masayim Moneh, including 200 is 100. So that's good enough.
Who's it, the mixer?
Well, a little bit. Modem mixes,
Yeah.
modem mixes is because I agree to one part. That's a proof that I agree to the rest, really. Yeah, but it's no, but the idea is that we should be able to reduce it to the common denominator. So he's saying, who are you going to like? Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. And he's going to say that he wants to argue that Loch is not like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The sign of the Bride says on Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says Beis Hillel did not dispute al shtei ketei edim on 2 when there's 2 groups of witnesses. She'achas u'meres moneh v'achas u'meres mosayim sheish b'chal mosayim moneh. That where one says 100, one says 200, he owes him. One says he owes him 100, one says he owes him 200. Everyone agrees yesh b'chal mosayim moneh, including in 200 is 100. Now this is different. This is much better. If I've got 2 Eidim saying 100, the guy owes him £100, and I've got 2 Eidim saying the guy owes him £200, yeah, then that's no, because there I've got 2 Eidim saying he owes 100.
Yeah, you've got.
Okay, yeah.
We've got 4 Aiden.
Got 4 in a case where I got 4 Eidim, 2 against 2.
You've got the minimum number required for monetary matters.
Yeah, I've got 2 Eidim who say, let's understand this. Where it's 1 aid against another aid, there you could say, I don't have 2 Eidim, because those 2 Eidim contradict each other. Here, even if we look at it as a contradiction, I still have 2. So what? So what? They say 200 and they say 100. So it's a contradiction. Okay, great, contradiction. Can't have both of them. Fine, but I still have Eidim on 100. What? I still have Eidim for 100. I still have 2 Eidim on the 100. You have to understand it. But that's that there everyone agrees it works. We'll see. The Rosh Hashanah, I think, explains this. Anyway, that's what they both agree with. Amar Nechleku, what is the debate? Al Kas Achas, where you have one group of Eidim is always just 2 Eidim. She'echodom imon ve'echodom imosayim, one says 100 and one says 200. She'vei Shammai omrim Nechleku Eiduson. They Shammai say the Eidus is split. You cannot join them together because the each aid contradicts the other, so the whole thing is out the window. But Beis Hillel say no. Yesh b'chal mosayim moneh, included in 200 is 100. Right? You understand? Right? Seems to be good. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says this is what they're debating, and Rav Kana says like this. Rav Kana says, "Who are you going like? You're ruling like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar in Beis Hillel. Normally we follow Beis Hillel. That makes sense, right? But it's not so simple because it's only Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar who says that Beis Hillel say this. Beis Shimon ben Elazar is the one who says that this is the debate between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, and in that debate, Beis Hillel say you can distill it and say, well, I can join together 2 Eidim, even if they contradict. On the common denominator, I can join them together. That's Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. He is the one who says that's what they debate about. So Rav Kana turns around to Rav Yehuda and he says, Omalei, he said to him, I'm going to bring you a letter, he says, from Ma'arova, from Eretz Yisrael. The west, yeah? The Ein Halacha, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. I'm going to bring you a proof. a letter signed by the great rabbis of Eretz Yisrael that the halacha is not like Shimon and Elazar. Rav Yehuda has the most fantastic response. Omar said to him, when you bring it, when you bring the letter, we'll talk.
Very good.
Full stop. End of Gemora. Yeah. Cool as a cucumber. No, I'm saying, he says, when you bring it, we'll talk. Like, until you bring that letter, that's a big good put down. Huh? What? When you bring that letter, they'll have a conversation. Until then, please return the land. Because I'm holding that the Shimon and Elazar says this is what the debate was, and therefore Beis Hillel, Allah will be like Beis Hillel. Therefore, we can join together the Eidos, in which case you have two Eidim who are agreeing that you move the boundary at least 2 rows, right? They both agree on that, and therefore you've got to return the property. And that's what he says to him. Right, let's see the Rashbam. Chad Omar Rav Kana Ayel Kosol B'Ser Shachaveiro. One said that Rav Kana put his wall inside the friend's field. Tati Utziisa. Shtei Shuros Karka. 2 rows of land Al Pnei Asodeh on the field. Kedegasin Aba Shutvin. As we have the text in our Shutvin, as we say in our Shutvin, Tlas Utziisa B'Yud Beis Gufni. So that was a Gemora we learned, I think. This is where 3 rows within 12 vines, I think. This is based on Medalef. It was a long time ago. We said there that there's a debate of how much, if a person says, I'm selling you a piece of a vineyard or whatever, a part of a vineyard, how much is it? In Bovel, the Gemora says, in Bovel, it means 3 rows, B'nei Tresa Gufni, which are, I think, we each have 12 vines. So an Utzi Isa is a row of 12 vines. Okay? That's what it is in a vineyard, a row of 12 vines. So 3 is 3 times 12. 3 rows. That's in a vineyard. But that's what Rambam is just explaining what it is, what it is. 2 rows from the 3, Shemeir or Echad, the one of them testifies on, the Tavayim Yomodu, because both of them agreed, the Taratutzi Isa, Ayel, the 2 rows, he moved it, because included in 3 is 2. Everyone agrees to that. Rav Kana and Rav Yehuda. Rav Kana says to Rav Yehuda, come on, who are you going like down today? Who are you judging me like the Tarvayu Makashi Hailai? But Tibatale Dusan. Who are you judging me like? Because at the end of the day, Rav Kana says they contradict each other, and therefore the Eidos should be all nullified. I'm judging you, I'm explaining to you like Rabbi Shimon Elazar shalocha kamoshe, because halacha is like him. One of them says there was 200 on that day, on that time, in that place. Rasham is emphasizing that there's no contradiction in other areas. That's very important. It's because otherwise you would say the logical assumption is, well, if one says he borrowed 200 and one says he borrowed 100, maybe they're talking about 2 different loans. So it has to be that we're talking. You make sure it's the same person, right? The same time, the same day, and the same place. Okay, I do this all the time because we're working out. One of my things that I do in the basement is this: we have to check the yichus, right? Make sure people are Jewish. Okay, so one of the ways you do that is, does the data make sense? That means to say, you look at a birth certificate and you say, right, who's the mother's maiden name? There's the mother's maiden name. There's the surnames. There's the thing. There's the date. Now let's look at the ksuba. When did they get married? You see they got married. You understand? It's the same people in the ksuba, same people, same parents, whatever, and same child. That means child of parents. Simple, right? But sometimes it's not so simple. Because sometimes, let's say you've got a document where the mother's maiden name is missing. I had that recently, a case like that. Why was the mother's maiden name missing? Because this was a girl coming from Israel, who we've got several weddings now that we've had to organize a very, very quick turnaround because unfortunately they've moved them from Israel. Weddings that were supposed to take place in Israel, they now moved them here. Yeah, of course, several of them, because if they can't get there or whatever, you can have weddings in Israel, but they have to be like I think they have a law now that at the moment that it has to be miklatable.
Yeah.
Miklatable. In other words, you have to basically be able to get the people into a shelter that's big enough to hold the people at the wedding. Or at any simcha, you can't hold a function that is not. Now, some wedding halls are inside are themselves shelters. There might be basements or whatever. So Anyway, that's the current situation. So we had someone came over here, and the problem was that she didn't have a birth certificate. Her birth certificate was somewhere in Israel. It wasn't possible to get hold of it at such short notice. And if they had it, they'd have to order it from the government. There's a war on. They're not giving out. It's not very possible. What did she have? She had a Tudat Zahut. Now, Tudat Zahut in Israel is a bit better than a passport here because it does say the father's name and it says the mother's first name, but it didn't say the mother's surname. That's not on the Tudat Zahut. There's a sapach to the Tudat Zahut, which is like an extra piece of paper which goes with the Tudat Zahut, right? With your identity card, right? But it contains the parents' names, but it doesn't have the mother's surname, the mother's maiden name. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So therefore, we had to work out like this. What are the chances of, we had the parents' ksuba, you understand? The only way it could be someone else, that she's not the child of these parents, is if she has a cousin. No, a cousin. Yes, a cousin. No, with the same father. How'd it work? But not the mother. But it was the father could have been. Yeah. It could have been. It's clear this is clearly her father, but maybe she had a different mother who happened to have the same first name, and maybe that mother wasn't Jewish.
That's like confused if you have.
Is that chashash rochok?
Confused if you have two wives of the same.
Yeah. Sorry. Is that a question? Is that chashash rochok? Could we rely? That was the shiloh we had. This was a live shiloh last week. Could we rely on the basis of probability? Now you'll tell me, hold on a second, it's so unlikely, but you're dealing with generations. We're seriously careful with these things. You're dealing with life and death because once we establish someone is Jewish, you understand, and you let them get married, that means that's forever, that line is proven. You understand? It's a serious business. So we actually solved it in a different way. We actually managed to, we solved it in a different way. We had two ways of solving it actually. Number one, there was a Rav who'd written a letter, also a Rav from Israel, who'd written a letter stating she was Jewish. So I phoned him up and he explained to me the circumstances. The family for many, many years. That definitely helped as well. It was definitely this, whatever, he knew the story. So that was helpful. But even better, she phoned her mother in Israel and her mother's Teudat Zahut as her. Yeah. It's a bit like that sometimes. It's a bit like detective work. So we were home and dry because the mothers to had the daughter on because they do that because it goes the other way as well. Anyway, how do we go on to that? I don't know. Okay, yeah.
But that's not genealogically necessarily true.
Why?
Because it could be that the mother adopted the daughter or something. You don't know that.
No, what do you mean adoption?
As in biologically, you don't know that the mother is biologically.
Don't say that.
No.
Because you're relying on the Israeli government to.
No, but that's the same with birth certificates. You wouldn't necessarily think there's an issue with adoption. Also, you have ways of telling that. At least on English birth certificates, we have ways of telling if there's been an adoption. I don't know Israeli ones. You can. I think it would normally be recorded. I think if there was an adoption in English birth certificates, you can tell if there's a gap in the years and the registration. That's how you tell. Yeah. Usually, if you have to by law, you have to register birth because by law you have to register birth within 6 weeks. It's a law, right? So if you ever see a birth certificate which has like a year or 2 years gap between birth and registration, then that's a very strong sign, a strong possibility there was an adoption. I've had that before. And then you have to go into it much more. Then you have to work it out, and then you have to speak to the family. What's more complicated, which is a big problem, is that if it was a surrogacy, because that's not registered, and that's a big problem. So surrogacy is not registered. That means to say if there was a surrogate egg or donor egg, you can't tell. I think if the carrier, if it was the other way around, I think you can tell because then the birth has to be registered with the birth mother. The mother actually gave birth, and then it's transferred after. It's a whole. So
the girl had her parents' kasub.
Who? Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Not
That's correct. Again, let me be clear. Often we're doing this. We're building up a picture. It's not like we have one document. I'm sitting in front of this couple, and there's a ksuba and the thing and whatever, and she phones them up. Do you understand? Like it's not like we're only, right? It's not like your only thing. But we try and be as careful as we can. Of course we do. So and case of that, we'll discuss it with the day on, and we'll work out what to do.
100%.
Again, what does that mean? What does 100% mean? Of course, you could forge a birth certificate. Yeah, I could forge.
It's about
Someone could come. Okay, but there is because there of course there are rules. Like it's what we call a chashash, the chance. Of course, you could get someone who's an expert forger who could forge a birth certificate. My predecessor in the role that I'm in, I used to keep, or he showed me once a ksuba that was forged. It is very unlikely, but it shows why you have to be very careful. It was a forged ksuba. They'd taken the top of one and the bottom of another. He'd married a non-Jew. No, because he was previously, I think he was previously married to a Jew, and then he married a non-Jew and he forged it. So he put it together like, thing, whatever. He submitted. And he sort of merged it in some way. And because we checked it you normally check a ksuba. If it's not one of our ksubas, we normally check it with the authority that authorized the wedding. Normally, not always, but unless we as long as it's clear, whatever. But generally speaking, we will try to, at least if we have any questions or we don't know the situation, normally we'll check it. And this was with another authority in the UK, Orthodox, so perfectly acceptable. But we phoned them up. This wasn't my time. This was my predecessor. He spoke to me. He says, "Did you authorize this wedding?" And they said, "This is really weird. We don't have this in our books at all." And it all came to light that basically they hadn't authorized it. They'd authorized the previous wedding. And the guy tried to put a past one, which meant his children weren't Jewish. So it was really critical.
Wow. Sorry,
Yeah. It's very unlikely that, but you've got to be prepared for everything. So you've got to, that's why we like to have original documents as much as possible and things like that. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's finish the story. Now, why is it that everyone agrees that if it's 2 against 2, we say included in 200 is 100? It's 100 zuz. The second group, the 2 Adim, don't contradict the first group, right? That on the 100 that the first group are testifying about. They're adding on another mona. But the first group contradict the second group on the extra mona shemosifin that they add on. You with me? And with that second mona, the second 100, oki trailer ahadi tray. You say it's 2 against 2. And therefore the money stays with the owner, but Yisham doesn't have to pay. So there's 2 against 2 on the extra mona. You understand? One says he owes him 100. One says he owes him 200. On the 100, the 2 do not contradict the 2, right? Everyone agrees he owes him 100, and you have 2 Adim on that, and there's no contradiction to that. I have 2 Adim who say that, and the other 2 I don't care about, because they're not contradicting that 100, so I don't care about them. You understand? But the extra 100, I've got 2 against 2. And the rule is, if you have 2 against 2, so you go after chazaka, another form of chazaka. What is the chazaka? Cheskas mori. That, in other words, I'm not going to pay. You want to take money away from me? Prove it. And I've got 2 on the extra 100. There's 2 against 2, contradictory, right? So that's why everyone agrees to that. But where do they say that the Eidus is split? Because they're testifying on 2 separate things. If it's 1 aid there and 1 aid here, 1 aid says 100 and 1 says 2, one says 100, 1 says 200. They're testifying on 2 separate things. I don't have 2 aidim saying 100. Beisil Omrim, Yesh Bechal Masayim Mona, included in 200 is 100, no Tel Mona. And he can take 100. Hachanami here as well, Yesh Bechal Tzlas Utziyaisa Tarati, included in 3 rows is 2, but Mehadale, and he has to move the boundary 2 rows. Okay? Amalei Rav Kahana Rav Yehuda, so Rav Kahana says, Rav Yehuda, my Sina Igor Sovachulu, I'm going to bring a letter from Eretz Yisrael that Afila Beisil Modu Dunech Koiduson, that even Beisil agree, not like Rishon and Loza, that even Beisil agree that the Eidus is split, and you can't join it together. So he said to him, Amalei, Rav Yehuda said to him, Ahader Miyad, return the boundary now, add to Maisis Igrason, until you bring a letter. That's fine, no problem. You bring a letter, but until you do, move it back where it is, yeah. We hold like Rabbi Yehuda says the Rashbam, because that's how the halacha was. That's how the halacha was paskend. So this is how it is. Now, yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, it is a bit difficult to understand the distinction between the 2 and 2 and 1 and 1. But it seems to be, and Toras I can see deals with it as well. It seems to be that the question is, do we say that you can't add together, you can't create you can't create one edus out of two people who contradict each other. Yeah. Well, I think I'm just seeing both of them really talk about it. Both of these two Tosfos on this page really talk about it, but I don't know. Meaning, it seems to be to do with the fact that I need to have two Adim who are both saying the identical thing. That's the point.
You would have that anyway.
No, I don't have that. In the case where it's 1 and 1, one says 100, one says 200, I don't have that. That's the point. That is the point. They still say it doesn't matter. Well, I do. They still say I do. Everyone agrees on 100. But where you've got two Adim saying 100 and two Adim saying 200, I do have two Adim on 100, right? And you're going to tell me those Adim, those two Adim are contradicted by the other two? They're not. Because the other two are just adding on. They're not contradicting them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Because we learn in Hilchos Eitos, there's some questions that are foundational to the.
Right.
Are,
You're going to say this is foundation. I think Tosfos talks about this. I think. You look at the beginning of Tosfos, Rav Yehuda, the Gemara's conclusion is, Masik, Rav Yehuda Kashim Elazar Sirle, Rav Yehuda holds that Kashim Elazar, right? The Gemara, look at the first Tosfos. Rav Yehuda holds that Kashim Elazar. Masik, the conclusion of is Rav Yehuda Kashim Elazar Sirle, that like Mesilel, that you say you can join the Eidos together. The Tamar, says Tosfos. This is very problematic. To Perk Zebura, Amar Rav Yehuda, Eidos Samachesha Zezeh, Bibedikas Kachera, Bedini Mominus. That where you have Eidos who contradicts himself with Bedikas, right? There's Bedikas and Chakiras. I think this is Bedikas. Why? What? There's Sheva Chakiras. There's 7 Chakiras. The Chakiras are where we at that time, the place, the thing, whatever. I think that's the Chakiras. And this is Bedikas, which I think is the investigation about the maybe the specifics, perhaps, of the case. I'm not sure. Something like that. He says it's kosher, Bedini Mominus. And he says, the Gemara says that's where is contradictory ages good with monetary matters? That's be'echad omer arnaki levona, ve'echad omer arnaki shchora. Because is on the specifics of what they actually saw, I think. So one says it was a black purse he stole, and one says it was a white purse. What did the shoplifter take? What did the thief, the pickpocket, yeah? But if one of them says the coin was black and one of them says the coin was white, aim and staff and they can't join together. And our Ardois say even one is a monologue, they can, and they are like Rishon Elazar.
You think you can with the purse, but not with the coin?
Pardon?
Yes, because they both agree that. Sorry.
No, so we're saying that the coin. If one says it was a black coin and one says it was a white coin, they can't join together. Nahardoi say they can, and the Gemara's conclusion there is because Nahardoi, not like Rav Yehuda there, Nahardoi there holds like Rishon Elazar, right? And that's right. There's a machlokes there of Yehuda and Nahardoi. Nahardoi say it's okay. You can even if one says a black coin, one says a white coin, join together. And Rav Yehuda says they can't. So the Tosfos question is that contradicts Rav Yehuda here. Rav Yehuda here says that like Rishon Elazar, and there it's not like Rishon Elazar, right? So he says, the polig Rishon Elazar dahacha. V'yesh loymar, he says answer Rav Yehuda namik Rishon Elazar. He holds up Rishon Elazar as well. Okay, anyway, Tosfos answers it. We don't have time to see this, but he answers the question, resolves the contradiction.
As always.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see. Next time we'll see. All right, make a decision. We're back. Thanks for coming. 2 more. Hashem Yerachem. Yeah, they would talk about that today.